Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and this week on the Christian Nerd Unite podcast, I'm joined by Amy Lynn McConahy, publisher of The Clean Fiction magazine, a quarterly publication specializing in indie fiction and small presses, plus scripture and nerdy news as always, and we'll get to all of that right after this. Thanks so much for joining me this week. We have a huge announcement coming soon. Look for it on Star Wars Day, May 4th. Make sure you check out the website, YouTube channel, and our Facebook page and group. Something big is coming, and I can't wait to share it with you. Well, after I watched last week's Mandalorian episode called The Spies, I saw some interesting parallels between that episode and the story from the Bible of the 12 sent to explore the Promised Land and to bring back a report. To read the entire story, check out Numbers 13 and 14, but let's just read a small portion of that today. We're going to start with Numbers 13, 1 through 3. The Lord said to Moses, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders." So at the Lord's command, Moses sent them out from the desert to Parteon. All of them were leaders of the Israelites. And then we're going to skip ahead to verse 26 through 31. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Parteon. There they reported to them and to the whole assembly, and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account: "We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan." Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We can't attack these people. They are stronger than we are." These were all leaders of the people, but most just couldn't imagine taking the land. But two stood firm and said that with God they could do it. I think sometimes we're like the 10. Even though we know God is calling us to something and He is with us, we don't see how we can do it. But that's kind of the point. We can't in ourselves, but God can do amazing things through us. I'm not saying as a believer all your wishes are going to come true, but I am saying that if God is in it, He will see it through. I hope you'll take some time this week to pray about what God is calling you to and ask Him to give you strength, wisdom, and faith to keep going even when it gets hard. Now, let's do some nerdy news before we get into our interview. The Super Mario Bros. Movie takes the box office for a second weekend with $92 million domestically for a domestic total of $353 million and a worldwide total of $692 million. While Nicolas Cage's Dracula movie, Renfield, that just released this past weekend, comes in fourth place with a almost pitiful $8 million worldwide. So don't expect much more from Renfield, but do expect to see the future of Super Mario Brothers. I think with that much income, that this is definitely going to become a franchise. Just over a year ago, Amazon completed their purchase of the MGM catalog of film properties. And Deadline is reporting that there are plans to start rebooting, at least developing, some of these properties, including RoboCop, Stargate, which I'm excited about, the Magnificent Seven, and the Pink Panther franchises, among many others. They do suggest that this will be a combination of film and TV for most of those properties. Don't expect these for probably a couple of years, but I'm kind of excited to see what Amazon is going to do there. HBO Max this week announced it is changing its name to just Max. The new service will officially launch May 23rd and will contain content from both the current HBO Max and Discovery Plus. And that's part of the reason they're changing the name. Pricing for the existing tiers is expected to remain the same, with an addition of a high-end tier that will contain 4K content. So if you are a subscriber, or if you're like me and have AT&T and get HBO Max for free, you might be excited about some of the changes coming. With Young Sheldon expected to come to a close with its next season, season 7, Warner Brothers announced on its press day that Chuck Lorre, who created Young Sheldon and The Big Bang Theory, is in development on a new spin-off project. Now, there's no real information here. We're not sure if this is going to be another prequel or if it will be a sequel of some sort or some parallel project, but some are speculating this will be some kind of project that the original cast may be able to come and guest star in from time to time. I'm going to keep an eye on that. I hope it's going to be good, whatever they do. Now let's get into our interview. Amy Lynn McConahy, it is great to have you on the Christian Nerd Tonight podcast today.
I am so happy to be here.
So you are the editor and publisher of the Clean Fiction magazine. Talk to us a little bit about that. What is Clean Fiction magazine?
Clean Fiction magazine is a magazine for adults who prefer clean fiction and all sorts of genres. We're a Christian publication, but we also review books in the secular space as well.
Very cool. And how did you get involved with this publication?
Well, I started this publication in July of last year after I published my own novel in March of that same year. And I tried advertising in a lot of the more traditional places and wasn't seeing any turnover for that because my book definitely wasn't for teenagers, but it also wasn't for adults who preferred like gory or explicit things. So I sort of was in that strange between zone. And I looked around to see if there was a place for that strange in between zone, and there wasn't. So I was getting a bit of nudging from the Lord that this might be something I could do myself, mostly because I've grown up in the publishing industry. My family has been running a local weekly paper that has been going for the last 50 years. Wow. So I grew up doing publications on my dad's knee. They got one of the first Macintosh computers in our area because we're rather rural here. And it just seemed natural, even though it didn't feel like it was the best time for it. You know how God is with these things.
Yeah.
I was homeschooling 3 small children. I was taking care of my husband and taking care of my cousin's 2 children as well. So I was like, I don't have time for this. And God's like, I don't care what you have time for. You're doing this. So the first publication took from that July to November of that year. And I did most of the writing myself, most of the reviewing myself. I had already started a clean fiction blog, and it wasn't really getting much views until I reviewed Max B. Sternberg's The Rise of Light, and it just exploded. I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe people do want to read stuff like this. So I did have a couple of friends who were willing to help me with that first edition. But other than that, I wrote most of the 100 pages myself. And now we're at 9 other reviewers, and we've taken the publication up to 136 pages, and I've had to decrease the font several times to fit within those pages. So the Lord is blessing.
Awesome. other than your own needs, why do you think there is a need for this kind of publication right now?
Well, the Lord is moving. And anyone who thinks that he isn't moving right now isn't watching the news or keeping tabs on the Christian church in general. And during 2020, when a lot of people were home, like there was this wave of creativity that
Mm,
was allowed to happen. And many of those creatives were Christians. And so by the time 2021 came, a lot of these people are getting their books and their other types of media ready to be seen by others. And it put me in a perfect place to promote them. I mostly do independent authors and small presses, not like big name
mm,
companies, because it also allows me to put out things that don't fit into a specific genre or don't fit
mm.
into a certain mold. And because I am a place that puts forward people like that, it has really helped the Christian community as a whole because they've done all these great creative things that the Lord has asked them to do. And now it's my job to show everybody how awesome they are.
Awesome. Well, when if somebody gets a copy of the Clean Fiction magazine, what kind of things are they going to see there?
We are mainly book reviews, but other than that, we also have serial stories. We have contests like our writing contest. We have a bookstagram contest. There's seasonal contests that happen. So
Hmm.
like you can find artists and cartoonists and let's see here. We do articles and devotions, obviously, because you contributed. I just wanted it to be sort of the Reader's Digest of our generation, meaning like I seem to be in a generation where a lot of people like what is considered nerdy things,
Hmm.
and so I am putting forward those things that I would have loved to see in my 20s and now into my 30s, and so people who are in this age range can also enjoy it. I mean, Reader's Digest no longer is about books, really, but
Right.
it's more of you can find books, you can find organizations, and you can find nonprofits and businesses that you're going to be able to interact with that either have a Christian worldview or at least have a positive worldview.
Now, you said you published a book, and that's kind of the impetus that started this project. What was that process like for you writing a novel?
Well, it was a bit intense, considering I'm a super extrovert. If you missed it, I'm a super extrovert. So writing is usually an introvert's game.
Mm,
It's a person who likes to sit alone with their
mm,
thoughts and focus. And I am none of those things. So when I had to sit and focus on this story, it was a difficult process. But once I
mm,
got to the finished product, I already had the skills I needed to move it to the next level. Not that I didn't get an editor, not that I didn't have somebody do the cover. Like I wasn't
mm.
trying to do everything by myself. But because of my publishing background, I was like, I know how to lay out a book. Like I use this program literally all the time with my family. Like, let's do this. So once it was published, that wasn't the hard part. It was the marketing that was
Mm.
difficult. And because I work for a advertising publication, I was like going, why is this not working? Like it just didn't have a place. So
Mm.
now we have a centralized place.
Very cool. And do you mind sharing a little bit about your novel?
Oh, sure. It's called Dreamlight. It's set in a alternative medieval fantasy land. It has a touch of Dante's Inferno going on, but it's mainly a faith journey. It's a
Mm,
journey of an unbeliever to belief, but in a I would say, a non-traditional way, because I pulled a lot of references from Asian culture, which you
Mm,
don't really see like any Asian culture in the book itself, but the structure of the story is very Asian. And the
mm,
reason that is because Western society is about me and my
mm,
needs and my wants and my journey. But in Asian countries, it's about you and us together, working together
mm,
as one unit to move forward with whatever it is, with your company or with your family. It's everybody together. And I really have always liked that ideology because I feel like it's more like the church. We're all
mm.
supposed to be part of a unified body and all doing different roles to move that body as a whole forward versus like how do they put it nowadays? Main character vibes, or how the younger people put it, like that you're the main character in your own story. And I feel like Jesus is the main character of all of our stories. And so following him is the first and foremost that we should be doing, even if we're not doing something that is overtly visible, because a lot of the work that I do is not visible. I sit at my computer laying out pages quietly or not quietly, depending if my kids are around. And nobody gets to see that. But when they look at the publication and they look at what all the different writers have done, and they see Jesus in that, and that makes me happy because I would rather they see him than me any day.
So since you're reviewing all this work that's coming through, personally reviewing novels or editing other people's reviews, are you seeing particular trends uh in fiction right now, especially in Christian fiction? What kind of trends are you seeing?
I'm seeing a lot of crossover books, like books that don't fit any particular genre, even though
Mm,
Amazon has the most ridiculously long list of genres in the history of all time. Like you can, whatever you can imagine, it's on the list of genres. But when we think of traditional genres like science fiction or fantasy or historical, like people are taking Western and fantasy and mashing them together.
mm.
Or Carrie Knights, Neats. He wrote Amish Vampires in Space. Okay? Like, and it's good. Like, it's not something that should be good, but it is. Do you understand what I mean? Like things that
I'm
should
not
not
even
at
I'm trying
all.
to envision this and I'm having
You should see
trouble.
the cover. It's insane. But he's really sweet too. But it's just these mashups. Like people are just done with traditional tropes. They're going to take them and they're going to turn them upside down. But something that I have found very heartening in the writing community that has come from the 2020 publication boom, like that people have written
Mm,
when they had time off finally,
mhm,
is that stories that you wouldn't traditionally have a Christian message in have a Christian message. If you
mm,
read anything by Morgan Bussey, her stuff is just straight fantasy, really great, like sword fighting, all that stuff, magic, but within it is the truth of Christ,
mm,
which has been done, obviously.
mhm,
But like her latest is people who live in the sky because everyone on the ground has been turned into zombies by a mist.
hmm.
Okay? So like just a little different. But I don't know, I really like different. I'm a lifetime reader. I have been reading seriously since I was in 7th grade, worked in a library for 9 years. Like, I love books. And when a book surprises me, it gets a gold star in my book because you can't usually surprise me.
Now I came out of I don't know, came out of it's probably the wrong term, but for a short while I worked for kind of a boutique publisher. Um, I'm sure you know what I mean when I say that. Uh, um, some people will call it a vanity publisher. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but nowadays I'm seeing a huge turn to self-publication away from even the vanity publishers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are how do you feel about that particular change in the process, or in the way things are working? Do you feel like that's a good direction? Do you feel like there's some issues there that maybe self-publishers need to consider? What do you feel? What do you see going on there?
I feel like it's freeing. I think it has freed the Christian community from trying to have to write things towards big companies, but also not that there isn't a place for a boutique publisher, because there definitely is. It makes it a lot simpler for somebody who wants physical copies of their books to put in their local bookstore
Mm-hmm.
and to distribute. Like, it has its place, and I wouldn't say any type of publication is obsolete at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it has allowed a burst of creativity in the writing space that would not have otherwise existed. And it's also allowed a lot of people to come up as editors, like part-time editors, instead of like, oh, I have to work for this big company. I can
Mm-hmm.
still have a family and do another job and do editing. So like, I feel like it's a sort of next generation of small business can rise up. And I've always been a very big supporter of small business, just because it has been my family's whole life, is putting out papers and supporting small businesses in our area, because we're in a very, very difficult area to sell anything. We are the place
Mm-hmm.
people send products to die or survive, because if they can be sold here, they can sell anywhere. Because people around here are just rough. But I think it taking the, wow, there's no way I could possibly do this, like I can never publish something, to like, hey, I have access to this editor that I can afford. I can take the text for my book and put it into Amazon's Create Space. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what it's called now. Maybe it is Create Space now. But you can
Yeah,
put it in
they've
there, and
changed it
it's,
recently. I don't remember what it's called
I
now.
know they've changed everything. They got rid of smile.amazon. I'm like going, stop changing stuff. I have to keep track of enough without having to keep track of you. Anyway, but it has made the barrier to entry so much smaller. Like, it used to be like you had to have very highly paid professionals do everything. And now because they're small businesses, you have access to really nice covers for a price you can afford, and really good editing for a price that you can afford. I mean, they're being paid what they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe could earn more, but they want that convenience of not having to work for a large business.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take a hit from that. But that's my 2 cents. You can take with it what you will.
So, from an aspiring author's point of view, what are some of the parts of this process that you think most authors, like you said, you knew how to lay out a book because that's what you do all day, is you
Mm-hmm.
lay out pages. What are some things that you think most aspiring authors probably should outsource and not do themselves?
Editing. Giant flag. Editing. It's even I outsourced my editing. I thought, I'm fine. I've been a proofreader for years. I know what I'm doing. It's great. I got this handled. Handed it over to an editor because I was like, this will be the easiest money you've ever made. I was so wrong. So amazingly wrong. So wrong. I mean, it was my first book. So like, I was going to make problems. I mean, I'd written children's fiction before, I've illustrated children's fiction before, but this was my first adult book, and it needed it needed help. And so the editing is the biggest thing that has always separated self-publishing from big publishing or boutique publishing, because it used to be in the self-published space, like all the books were just terrible because no one got an editor, or no one could afford an editor or interact with anybody that they could have as an editor. But now there's editors who have the credentials, like real credentials to be editors, the bachelor's degree or whatever, that are accessible and not too expensive, that you can get a hold of. Please, 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 if you are writing a book, have someone else edit it. Even if you are the most amazing editor, believe me, you need an editor. Did I say editor enough?
Now, I know there are two kinds of editors. There's the content editor versus the copy editor. Now, are you talking about both, or are you talking about one or the other?
I am talking about both.
Okay.
There has literally never been a book I haven't found a typo in, but it's okay if there's only a few typos. But there have also been books that I've picked up that were missing an entire chapter. Missing a chapter. Not there. Not there. So and an editor will help you catch these things. And if you have a good content editor, they'll also tell you things that are not easily understood. Like, whatever you're saying, it's not coming across. Try it a different way. But I would be careful if somebody would edit your work really quickly versus like saying like, okay, this is going to take this many weeks for me to go through, because that's a red flag. If they're able to go through it quickly, essentially they're running it through Grammarly and sending it back to you. So just keep that in mind.
Good to know. Now, you mentioned earlier, Amish vampires in space, and you said something about the cover. How important do you think the cover is for a book in the world we're in right now?
Covers are important, but more specifically, they're important when they're that big. Okay, or that big if they're on your phone. If your cover is really complex and has lots of doodads and sparkles and whatever going on, when it's that big, nobody's going to be able to enjoy any part of that. So there has been a dramatic shift to really simplistic covers because they're that big and they have to grab your attention at that big. And that's what I do with the magazine as well. I say it has to have color blocking. It can't be too detailed, just bold colors. And then you've seen the cover of the magazine as a bright color on it. Like, you cannot possibly scroll past it without having it yell in your face, because I know that I'm attracting people at that big. So yes, covers are important, but not as important as grabbing a person's attention, because everybody likes to talk about, oh, it has to fit the genre. It has to be what's in trend for that genre. And it's true, changing a cover can increase your sales, but I think it's more about getting people's attention. Like with either a bold color or a close up of, like, I used the designer for the cover for my novel used a person's face very close up. So like when it's this big, you can still tell it's a person's face. You understand what I'm saying? So there are people that will spend all day talking about all the different ways a cover is important and what you need to do for a cover. But what I have found in my own personal, again, my 2 cents, is it has to be impactful that big. And so bright colors, bold graphics, people will look at it.
I absolutely understand what you're saying, because I come from the world of podcasting and video production, and YouTube thumbnails and podcast thumbnails are literally that big on a phone. So absolutely understand what you're saying, and absolutely agree in either genre.
Well, and that's the thing. I actually really like your thumbnails. They are eye catching, and it made me want to watch, honestly, because I watch on
Awesome.
YouTube. I watch
Well,
on
that's
YouTube. I want to see people's face.
well, that is nice to hear. I'm glad they're working. So when we're talking about this book process, somebody's considering, somebody's been writing for years, they finally have something. Um, what do they need to start thinking about, as far as you mentioned, the hard part was really the marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced similar situations
Mm-hmm.
where it's, you spend thousands of hours to produce this amazing thing, but nobody ever sees it.
Mm-hmm.
What do people need to be thinking about if they're going to be marketing something like this?
You have to be visible on social media.
Mm,
People are no longer wanting a faceless author with beautiful books. They want to know you. They want
mm,
to know why you wrote the book. They want to know what you put into the book, your own personal experiences. They want to get to know you, which is terrible because most of the writer space is introverts.
mm.
And introverts do not want to go outside of their comfort zone and let anyone know who they are. And but I've surrounded myself with introverts. It's fine. Um, and this is the barrier. This is
Mm,
the brick wall. Okay. So, what I have done with the magazine is I have got several introverts and extroverts together to do an extroverted thing. Write a nice long review about what they liked about your book, what they didn't like about your book, where it goes on the clean level, to do that shout out for you. But it's going to be worth nothing if, when a person types in your name to Google, they find no website and they find no social media.
mm,
People are more likely to buy if they feel like they know you personally.
mm,
And uh, that's just where the marketing is now. Like, and I had to convince my family of this because they were like, "Oh, we don't need that. We're a local paper. We don't no." I'm like, "You just wait. I'll I'll do it. I'll take care of that part, and you watch the dividends come back." And they have. So that's the biggest thing I would say with marketing is not only to put yourself out there with advertisements and put yourself out there with like trying to get people to review your book either
mm,
on Amazon or whatever platform you're on and things like that, but you also have to be present when they search for you, because I have had books that I have just loved and I've gone to find the author's stuff and they have nothing. And I
mm.
tell them, I'm reviewing your book. It's going in the magazine. People are going to be looking for you. You must have a website. You must have a social media because they want to know more about you. Just, it doesn't even have to be complicated. Just like your name, uh, generally where you live, tiny bit about yourself, the picture of your book, where they can buy it. That's it. Like a business card. Business cards might be obsolete. People go back and forth about that.
Mm,
But even a landing page is your business card now. Because if
mm.
they can't find you, you don't exist. That's it.
Absolutely. So I used to do, I said I worked for a publisher for a while. Um, I specifically did audiobooks for this publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel like audiobooks are an important part of the process? Are they a needed thing, or are they just kind of an extra luxury right now?
I think that audiobooks are the future of reading for people who
Mm,
want to do other things while they're also being entertained.
mm,
And unfortunately, our society wants to be multitasking at all times. I say
mhm,
unfortunately because like I feel like you don't get as much it's not as personal to listen
mm,
to a book versus reading a book.
mm,
I feel that. But I also see the need there. Like audiobooks are great for people who are trapped in the car, or like they have a desk job that has zero need for them to be paying attention to like the phone or whatever, so they just listen to podcasts, they listen to audiobooks, and there is definitely a huge market for audiobooks right now. And a lot of the self-published authors are also turning their books into audiobooks recently. But it usually takes like a year or more than a year after the original book is put out for that to happen, because,
Mhm.
you know, it takes time for production. You know
Yes.
this. So, you know this. But
I've done it a
I
few
think,
times.
yes, I think it's very important to have both, because like the people who love books are going to love books, and the people who love
Mhm.
audiobooks are going to love audiobooks.
Mhm.
And if you have it in as many different types of media as possible, you will make more money, just because you're doing more audiences. More audiences you have, the more readers slash listeners, more money. That's how it works. So yes, audiobooks are definitely where things are going, but I don't think that it will kick the either physical or digital book out of the market.
Hmm. Okay. Well, and when speaking of physical books, um, do you? I mean, even 5 years ago, the claim to fame for any author was, I have a physical book in a brick and mortar store.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that's something that is still, needed? Do you think that's something that authors should even be concerned about, or should they just focus on that, Amazon sale, digital printing kind of situation?
I would say, from what I've seen in the self published community, that the most successful authors don't even bother laying their book out in print.
Mm,
But on the flip side, this whole bookstagram culture is a real thing that could very easily get you a lot of readers.
mm,
So even if you don't have a printed book in a physical store, because honestly, the stores are closing. There's not like
mhm,
bookstore openings, at least in my area. Like
mm,
I had to drive over an hour to get
mm,
to a a bookstore that was not Barnes and Noble, okay? Like
mhm,
they're the little bookstores are really struggling because it's so much more inexpensive to buy a book digitally than it
mhm,
is to buy a paperback copy. And not that
mhm,
the paperback copies or hardback copies aren't worth the money that is being charged, cuz honestly, after like whatever you pay for the magazine, like if you get a printed version, I get 48 cents. 48 cents. 48 cents. But I mean, I know that the publication part of the magazine is not where I make my money, so I
mhm.
don't mind. But as an author, you should mind. Like you shouldn't be getting that small amount, but an ebook you will make more money and it's more accessible. So if you're going
Mm,
for the lowest cost option, uh, you can just write the text of your book, get a good editor, and then put it on it doesn't have to be Amazon, but any platform
mhm,
that does ebooks, just to start. And I've seen many, especially in the fantasy genre, they're just putting out books 6, 7 a year, and it's just going crazy. And they don't have any paperbacks, none,
mm.
no paperbacks, no hardbacks, no physical copies whatsoever. And I don't know. I don't think print is dead. I don't think print is dead, but it's definitely less of a market than just doing ebooks, and it costs the author more,
Mm.
honestly.
Well, tell our audience, if they're interested in the magazine, Clean Fiction magazine, where can they find it? How can they get a hold of it, digitally or physically?
Okay, I have it on Amazon as a paperback and a print replica ebook, which means it cannot be viewed on a regular Kindle. It has to be a Kindle Fire or a tablet or a computer. I also have it available on Patreon. We have a subscription there, and you can do a direct subscription through our website, and it's put together by PayPal, so like it's reputable. It's not just me collecting cards or whatever that is, but it the main distribution right now is on Amazon. But if you don't want to deal with Amazon, I would be happy to mail you a copy myself. So those are the different ways that you can get it. And every Friday, we offer one of the ebooks for free on Amazon. And you can snatch up, there's a list on our blog of what books are coming out on Friday and which ones you can get for free on that particular Friday. So pop over to Free Fridays on Amazon.
Awesome. And it's and your website is cleanfictionmagazine.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now you have some you have a contest coming up pretty soon. Talk to me just a little bit about that.
We have the Windows into the Multiverse writing contest coming up. Submissions start on April 1st, and it is super low stress type of contest. If you're a person who likes writing, it's 800 to 1200 words about an image. This magazine's image is a bottle with a note in it in the sand. And you can take that wherever through the window I saw the bottle in the sand. What was in the message? I want to know. What you think is in the bottle. Could be anything. We've had in the past science fiction, fantasy, allegory, contemporary people taking I wanted to challenge them one time, and I had an image of like an abstract image of a pink crystal cave. We're talking hot pink. I was like, good luck. Here you go. Where are we going? Where are we going when you're looking at this? And it was great. People came back with some of the craziest stuff. I was like, yeah, that's right. But it's just a fun thing to do. And we do award winners in several different categories depending on how many submissions we get. So even if, and the winners get Amazon gift card, 2-page spread, and then a author feature, which is worth $40. So it's a fun thing. You should check it out. It would be under contests at our website.
Awesome. Well, and if someone has a book out there and they're hoping to get a review, is that something? Do you accept submissions for consideration for a review, or if somebody is a reviewer, do you accept submissions for book reviews that they've written? What does that look like for anybody who might be interested in something like that?
Well, both. We're always open for submissions of books, and that would be at our website under submissions. And it just has like a little form. We're not asking you to send us a advanced reader copy or any of that ridiculousness. If we choose to review your book, it would be we either purchased the book or we got it from the library. Like, you don't have to send us anything for free. Well, that's the thing. It's the complete opposite of what other places do. They want you to pay for them to read it, and then you might have to pay more to have it in whatever publication that it's in. We do all that for free. I pay the reviewers for taking the time and the writing. Again, complete opposite. And if you want to be a reviewer for Clean Fiction Magazine, all you got to do is send me a couple of sample reviews and I'll take a look at them and might make you a new category. We just had a gentleman contact me it would be last year now. Last year for this publication that is out right now, the spring edition 2023, and he wanted to do audio dramas. I was like, that's fiction. Okay, let's do that. Made a whole new section. Why not? I mean, anything that is that could be put under the fiction blanket could be part of the magazine. And we found a lot of people really interested in that. But yeah, my email address is on the website, easy to find. So feel free to email me if you want to be a reviewer.
Well, I'll put links down in the show notes to all of that. So if anybody is interested, definitely click that. Definitely check out cleanfictionmagazine.com. And Amy Lynn, it has been great having you on the show today. It's been a joy.
Oh, thanks. It's been really fun.
It was great connecting with Amy and talking about writing and the Clean Fiction magazine. Don't forget to check out the links in the show notes below, and that way you can follow her or get a subscription. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, click all those links down there. That way you're informed anytime we put out new content, and you'll find out when we make our big announcement on May 4th. You can also find all of our social links to our YouTube channel, and to our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. If you enjoy the show and want to help even more, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. We have changed all of our Patreon levels, and every level has great benefits and makes a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will also get to hear exclusive stories of believers we are serving around the world through our ministry partners. To check it out, partner with us, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click on the support tab. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Jude. To him who is able to keep you from stumbling, and to present you before his glorious presence without fault and with great joy, to the only God our Savior be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ our Lord, before all ages, now and forevermore. Amen. We'll see you next week. Blessings.